loser, where the echoes howl. We're carving faces in the stone so foul. The MA's the hammer, Georgia swings the axe. Audit them's got receipts, no one's got their backs. Liberty trolls got the spotlight tight. The MCA lawyers set to ignite. Smashing the trolls like Mount Rushmore. Their lies crumble, can't stand no more. Dr. Douche is on the ropes, out of hope. Now loser rises, nope, nope, nope.
I knew that was gonna happen. Hey guys, sorry, my rug was all messed up. And I was like, I can't do it like this. Sorry. See, the reason that I'm late in the first place is because I have OCD, so I get obsessive behavior, and then it makes me late. So thank you for being patient with me. It's kind of a blessing and a curse though, because it's a curse because it sucks. It's a pain in the butt, but it's a blessing because it actually helps me accomplish more though too. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I was like, oh shoot, this rug. I couldn't like move around because it was stuck. So I had to like try to fix it. So thanks for coming in, guys. Today's show, sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath now, is going to be about the debate between Long Island and I. It's not really a debate, but it was just a panel on Auditing Erie County's channel. It was like, I think about 2 years ago. And so we were just, chopping it up and stuff. And I wanted to clarify some things because I saw John Felix, he watched it. You know what? That camera keeps doing this weird thing, like this flashy thing. It's annoying. Sorry, guys. I'm going to switch this camera. It was doing that last time. There we go. Sorry about that. That was way too annoying. So what I'm going to do, because he was making some points and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's true. So I want to just clarify some things because I have a video coming out Saturday on this channel, the main channel. What's up, escrow? And so I wanted to clarify some things because the things I'm saying in that video kind of contradict what I was saying on this video. So this video that we're going to be going over today is on the DMA 2.0 channel. It's on the backup. And the link to that video, if you want to watch that uninterrupted, is in the description of this video. Also, the link to the full panel, the full live stream, 4-hour live stream is in there too. It's actually, good. You guys might like that. It's listen to the 4-hour one, like if you're working or, long drive or, just something you don't have to like look at, you can just listen to. Yard work, stuff like that. It's good for those. But just to clarify, and I have to make a couple of disclaimers here because the first one is that I get people, and last time specifically, I got someone in the comments that told me during while I was doing one of these, stop talking so much and just play the video. I'm like, dude, so if you want to watch the full video, you can watch it uninterrupted. It's on my channel. So this is not for that. And then the other disclaimer is that people get really protective over Long Island. So I just have to clarify that, I'm like trying to like bash him or anything. It's just a friendly debate. That's all it is. The difference of opinion. I think it's important for us to, talk about these things. These conversations need to be had, right? And because people get all crazy, like a few panels ago, when I had the DMCA lawyer up here, I was giving a shout out to First Amendment Protection Agency, and somebody in the comment section was like, "Oh, Thappo was talking bad on LIA the other day. He's trash." I was like, "Okay, so anyone who doesn't like LIA is trash. Okay, got you." I mean, people are just so gung-ho him. So I just wanted to make sure that people aren't like, getting all offended by this. So see, here we go. I support Long Island 100%. I mean, I support him too, dude. I think he's done more than probably all of us. You know what I mean? He's done a lot, and he's good at what he does. So let's jump into this video, guys, because I want to get right into it. Now, I got this playing at a little bit faster speed than it was normally, just for time's sake. I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing for time, but let's go.
I have another question for LIA, and this is a serious one this time. What do you tell, what do we as a community tell the people like myself that have absolutely zero reason to like a cop or have ever met a good cop? What do you tell those people?
Well, I would say that we're all people, right? Cops are people, just like, we're all people. We are all human beings that we're on this planet all together. We're all human beings. There's going to be, there are some, again, and I'll say it again. I always get, but we're not the thin blue line here. At least we're not supposed to be. And this is why, this is when I told James Freeman, when I started auditing, I wanted to be myself. I wanted to just focus on who I was as a person, and I didn't want to mimic anybody. I watched First Amendment audits for years before I started, and I didn't want to be anybody else. I just wanted to be Sean Paul Reyes. But everybody's entitled to their opinion of me, and they can have it, and that's fine. But there's auditors out there, right? First Amendment auditors that I don't agree with, that I think are 100% trying to harass civilians, trying to harass police officers. It might be your right to harass a police officer. It might be your right to curse him out and say whatever you want to say, and suck my dick, blah 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 blah. Whatever you want to say to them, you can do that. That's fine. But if you're really trying to, that's your right, and I support your right 100%. But what we're trying to accomplish, there's people in this chat right now that are diehard First Amendment, auditor, supporters, and no matter what happens, like, I'm not going to name any names, no matter who says what to a cop, and no matter how they say it, they're going to support. We're trying, at least I am trying, to get people from that I've gotten emails like, hey, I used to think you guys only harass people, and then I've watched some of your videos, and now I've come and I've watched more videos, and I understand the purpose behind it. We got to bring more, and I think that's what
and that's true. He's absolutely right on that. When you conduct it in a specific way, you are going to get a better result. That's true. I'll agree with that. And Rogue Nation says in here, I'll stop it when we get to that point, but that's absolutely true. That is how you affect change. So I'll give him that for sure.
Accomplished, and I'm proud of that fact that I brought people that have not necessarily supported First Amendment auditors, but now they do, because they see that it's not just about cursing. It's not just about telling the cop to kick rocks and suck my whatever and do this. And
you talking about me, bro?
No,
good.
I'm not talking about you, Joe.
So he said he's not talking about Joe, but I mean, he's saying suck my ID. I mean, that's like classic Joe, right? So I don't know if he watches Joe Cool or not, but I mean, suck my D to Joe Cool is like do better to DMA, right?
Or you're a pig and this and that, like that's fine. Like, and again, I have my own, criticisms of people, but to answer your question.
And I'm a huge fan of Joe Cool because of his mindset, because of his beliefs. Him and I resonate quite a bit.
Question directly is, I would say that, there are good cops. There has to be good cops because there's good people. I've seen good cops. Like I've said, the system in and of itself, it's a systematic evil system that has, perpetrated people's rights being violated, since the birth of the United States, right? It's a problem that it's, the solution to it.
Two things. Your best argument tonight, and I think you converted me, is if a cop is turning in other cops and calling other cops out, I gotta support that. Gotta get behind that. At least
right. And as you know, Joe Cool, there are cops that one, Matt Thornton. There's others that have shown videos of cops. This is not what you do. That's progress. I see that as progress. And again, the system isn't perfect. I mean, it's never gonna be perfect, and we're never gonna get to a place where all cops are like, the best cops in the world. Their job is designed to fuck you over.
That's the other part of the argument. That's my problem. Any motherfucker in that job, outside of that guy you just mentioned, those guys, yes, it seems like if they quit, there is no shit. If they stop doing that shit, there is no system to do this shit. So I can't fucking excuse them. It just seems like it's an impossible task.
Right. Let me jump in here, guys. I want to respond to Long Island Audits. You made a bunch of points, a couple of good ones. So as far as you saying that I don't agree with some auditors, I'm with you on that. There are some auditors, of course, I'm not going to say names, that I feel like really are like what the trolls say, that like antagonize people and stuff like that.
Of course.
And I don't agree with that. But you said that like, oh, well, you're saying suck my this and that and F you and stuff like that. Like, we don't need to do that. Well, here's the thing is that like, and like, a lot of people, when I very first started, they used to compare me to you, man, because I was very, you know, calm
I've gotten
and
a lot of
respectful.
emails about you.
And like, yeah.
Hey, this
And
is
then as I
imitating you.
and I was just being me, and really what happened though was that I started getting comfortable and more confident, and like I kept getting assaulted and people putting their hands on me, and like it got to the point where I became more confident in my abilities, right? And it's like now it's like you get what you give with me, and I'm always respectful in the beginning, but the thing is that you got to keep in mind is that respectful speech doesn't need to be protected. Offensive speech does. And that's part of what we're striving for. So when a police officer is violating your rights and somebody says, hey, suck my this, that, and the other thing, F you got to keep in mind that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And that Lackluster himself said.
Sorry, guys. It's very hard when you have this many guys on a panel trying to, you know, get a word in because everyone likes to cut you off and stuff. So excuse that. Sorry about that part.
There has to be a Long Island audit and a desert community watch. Like there has to be kind of a balance.
So I wanted to clarify some stuff on this because in the video coming up, I'm talking about, you know, how I was with this guy and my members have seen it. It's out for the members. It'll be out for everyone else Saturday. That I don't agree with the way he was talking to you and stuff like that. And it's true. I don't, because I had to think about that. I was like, wait, I'm contradicting myself here. So I do believe that that type of speech does need to be protected. And I think that it's stuff that needs to be challenged and it needs to be, you know, tested. Right. But I will also say that I don't really, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean that you really should, right? And we all know that law doesn't equal morality for both things you should do and things you shouldn't do. But I also do think that the way that Long Island does it is the better way, right? I think that it does accomplish more, right? I think that most people would probably agree with that. The other way, you know, the in-your-face type way, it can be more entertaining for some. That's true. And it can be educational too. And I think it does need to be tested though. So I'm still standing by that it does need to be tested. But there are sometimes people though, they take it too far though, man. And so that's the difference. So like people talk about Regan Benson and Regan's always nice, dude. Like you guys, so my lawyer, the DMC lawyer, he just dropped a video. You guys should go watch it. It's good, about Darcy. But I was like, oh, what about Regan? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Is she going to be crazy? And I was like, dude, she's cool. And everyone just thinks that she's just this crazy wild woman, right? But she's not. She's only like that when you provoke her, right? And Randall, my attorney, was even saying that, you know, about, you know, people think this about Regan. I was like, yeah, I know. You even thought that, right? So when people do go there and just immediately are trying to just like antagonize cops, I've seen that. And I've seen where they're just rude to you right out the gate. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's really necessary. But there are some people that do get rowdy about it, like Regan, right? Like I said, High Desert Community Watch doesn't take any crap, Direct D, stuff like that. And I think that is important activism that needs to be challenged. But again, sorry, I'm repeating myself. Sometimes people do take it too far though.
You got to stress the system to test the system.
Right. No, listen,
the hothead who does not.
Listen, DMA and Joe, in what I said I fully support people's rights to talk the way they want to their government officials. I don't, condemn them for it. I fully support their First Amendment right to address.
Do you agree it serves a purpose, or at least possible? That guy out there saying "suck the dick." That's when you get the true test of the truth.
If a cop is violating your rights, 100% feel free to do whatever you choose to do. But don't, I feel like, a lot of people,
I can't stand with that shit either.
Right, no, listen, if a cop's violating your rights, I use the word tyrant. I call him a tyrant. I call him a coward. I'll use other words that would, I'm not just nice to the cops. I call him a coward. You wouldn't do that with your gun and badge on. When a cop violates my rights or puts his hands on me, I let him have it. Maybe not in the suck my whatever in a kind of way, or you're a pig and all those other things. But I let him have it, and if he violates my rights. But there's some people that just have an automatic animosity towards every single police officer.
Fuck you and your
Let me hop in here real quick and say something. I think the point that Long Island's trying to make, and it's a point that I make, and it's a point that I feel very strongly about, is that what we're trying to do, like, there's people out here who are trying to entertain, right? And there's people out here who are legitimately putting their life in the risk, and they're trying to change the system. And the point that I think Sean tried to make, and the point that I would agree with Sean in this, is that it is easy and peasy to make a cop hater hate the cops, all right? I could do that without even making a video, right? I could just say the cops suck, and they're like, yeah, they suck. Yeah. I'm telling you what, when that cop's violating your rights, and you can calmly say, sir, you're violating my rights. You took an oath, and you can calmly do that, and you can out-professional the professional peacekeeper. Now you're reaching to the other side of the aisle to them cop lovers, those bootlickers, right? You're taking that side of the aisle on your side, and then when you go before a judge, who's going to say nothing? Like, I mean, like when you're getting violated, and you tell that cop to suck your dick, and you tell him to fuck off, and you start calling him a pig, right? Number one, you're not going to get the respect from the judge, because the judge is only going to see that, right? The point in staying professional, and the point in that, I think, is the very fact that you're going to get both sides of the aisle on your side, and there's no excusing a cop violating your rights.
Do you agree?
When you are,
I couldn't wait to jump in there because a couple things. So yeah, there are auditors that are just entertainers, and you kind of tell those ones that they just throw stuff up on YouTube, and then they get arrested, and then like they take plea deals and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that, you know, sometimes people need to take plea deals, but like they should be avoided at all costs because you're just reinforcing that behavior, right? That's not really activism. So if you're going to do something, you should take it all the way. But it's true when it's not always really what the law is. Sometimes it's what the jury thinks. So sometimes you got to play chess and not checkers, right? So being, you know, watching my own trials, they always play my video. And sometimes when I'm being really nice and respectful, I can tell that it looks good. And my attorney was like, even like, yeah, that made you look good. But it can backfire on you too. If you're getting out of control, man, like it just doesn't look good. It's legal, but you know, it's not always what the law is. It's really just what the jury thinks, right? So you got to keep that in mind too.
When you are,
do you agree? You need both? Do you agree? You need both sides. Do you need a guy who says suck your dick too? I didn't know.
I feel those guys are counterproductive because number one, I
don't think they're counterproductive though. Like it is activism that needs to be tested, right? I will say that for sure. And the people that are willing to do that all the time, I mean, good for them. Because like I said, I think we need both sides. There has to be a balance.
I put my life on the risk for this, and then all these people see is that. So when I'm out there doing it professionally, and there's these other guys that are just off the hook with their voices right away, the problem is that they're discrediting what we're trying to accomplish. So no, we're not all connected, but in a way we are. Like that's why I think it's also important to call out other auditors
like you, and that's why we have people like Long Island Audit. We have those people, and those people are important. I think those probably are the people that are the most important. But to say that we can't, that the people that are saying, you know, disrespectful things right out the gate, that they're actually damaging the movement, I totally disagree with that.
So, and I wanted to clarify this because now is where the contradiction part comes in. When people do go in there though and say things disrespectful right out the gate, that's where I'm correcting myself here. So, you know, I make mistakes and I'm willing to call myself out on stuff like that. I don't really like it when people go out and just right out the gate for no reason, just start being rude to cops, man. I don't. So, and I've always believed that. I was just passionate and in the moment here at the time. So I just want to clarify that, guys. But I mean, it is stuff that, I mean, I guess technically that does need to be tested too, right? And so for those of you that are willing to do that, that's cool. But I probably won't work with you or record with you if you're like that though. But there's nothing wrong with my opinion. You know, like Long Island said too, it's not illegal to do that. But I mean, I'll record with you if you know, somebody's being rude to you first, right? They initiate it and then you act like Regan Benson. That's fine. Or like Direct D, you know what I mean? I've worked with a lot of different auditors that have different styles, you know what I mean? So.
Because this is speech that we need protected as well, and they need to understand that. So there has to be a balance.
The judge needs to respect that. Not
yes.
that we need.
Yeah, don't blame the auditor. What you're doing when you're blaming the auditor is you're blaming the victim. Oh, well, you could have acted like you have the right. You have the right to say fuck, but you're not. But you shouldn't do it because it's hurting the movement. That's not advocating.
I don't agree that it's hurting. I don't agree. Listen, I don't agree that I don't agree that it hurts the movement. But what I would say, and I think Dan was about to touch on this, is that there's so many people who look up to us, right? However many subscribers each of us has, there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions with all of us combined, of people that look up to us, right? And they look to us as a role model. And these people don't necessarily have the resources that.
Shout out to F in Reality. He edited this video for me, by the way, guys. I didn't edit this one.
We all do, the channels that we all do, the reach that we all do. And when you're automatically going off on cops and you're fueling that hatred of people, you're fueling the hatred of cops of cops to people, and then they go out and
real quick. Hey, auditors, you spent plenty of time at post offices. Try other venues for a change, like libraries. Librarian Karens are a lot of fun. I think there's, I don't know, are people still doing post offices all the time? There's tons of library audits, bro. Are you new here? You should go check out my channel, man. Actually, I think I need to make a playlist, like a library playlist. But I mean, I've got dozens of library audits on my channel. And who else? Accountability for All started doing a lot of library audits when after I did it. But I wasn't the first one to do library audits, but I think I was probably the first one to start making it popular. And I think a lot of that has to do with Chatio. So yeah, there's tons of library audits, bro. Go check them out, man.
imitate what you're trying to do because they think you're super cool and it's the right thing to do, and I have the right to curse out the cops. Again,
that's true, man. Though, like, they do look up to you. You know, some people do look up to you, and that's why I say, guys, that don't take my word for it. I don't like it when people do that and they just follow people without question, right? Like I said with the whole Long Island thing, or you can't say anything bad about him, or you're trash. You know, like people that do that. So I always say, do your own research. Don't take my word for it, because human beings are followers by nature. And I see it with the troll channels, right? They just follow them, cognitive dissonance. They follow them, you know, no matter what. And, you know, people do that with the auditors too, though. And it's not good. It's social dynamics. It's the human behavior, right? Social psychology. We need to get out of that. You need to start thinking for yourself, and don't just follow something just because your favorite auditor says so. I hear so many people say, Direct D made this super popular, that obstruction is a physical act, right? And people just parrot that. And it should be a physical act. It's not always. You have to check the laws in your state. You know, it's maybe not a physical act, right? Or you are. There's case law, though, that says that it should be. So these ones that say, you know, you can't interrupt them or you can't distract them, stuff like that, those are unconstitutional and they need to be challenged. So.
Well, listen, fucking up.
But listen, no, but listen. So, you know, I agree. You do have the right to do it. 100% automatic, without unequivocally support the right to use foul language and you know, because it's your right to do that against your government. Again, I just think that as role models, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm saying that I wouldn't do it, and because as a role model, there's people might follow in my footsteps, and then they don't have the resources to hire a $10,000 attorney, a $20,000 attorney, and fight the case all the way to the end. And they're going.
He makes a good point there. Not everyone does have these resources that he has. You know, Long Island makes a lot of money, man. So, you know, unless like I said, that's what happens too, is a lot of these auditors, they'll go out and do stuff, and they get arrested, and then they just take a plea deal because they can't afford it. And I understand, I appreciate the, you know, you wanting to help and you having a passion for it. But when you do that stuff, though, you're making it worse, bro. I'm sorry. People can disagree with me if you want, but you're making it worse, man. You're better off just don't go out and record then. So you have to be able to take it all the way, man. You do. And again, I'm not saying that you should never take a plea deal. There might be a circumstance, but people do it too often. And I get it, man. Like, if you don't have enough money, then how are you going to fight this stuff? Like with these troll lawsuits, you know, like how are people going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect their videos? You know what I mean? Unless you get an attorney like I got, who's just here, he wants to make law. You know what I mean? So yeah, guys. Not everyone has the means, so make sure that you have the means before you go out there and start doing stuff. It's my opinion.
Get their ass locked up. Let me finish. And they're going to get their ass locked up, and they're going to be sitting in a jail. I don't want anybody sitting in a jail.
And I do contradict myself here too. So it does need to be tested, though. So there are people that do need to do this and test it, though. That's the part. You can't just go out and get arrested and then take the plea deal, though. Okay.
The jail cell. Whether you're right or wrong, why would I want you sitting in a jail cell? Yeah, you were right to call that cop a stupid fucking pig. Right,
How are
you
we
were
going
right
to fix
about
that if we're
you're
not
still
able to
sitting in
do
the
it,
jail
though?
cell.
If you're just going to say, hey, we have the right to say fuck, but we can't say it because
don't
you're
do
in
it
a jail
because you
cell,
might end up
how
in
are you
jail.
going to
Yeah, don't rock the boat.
It's not about rocking. It's not about rocking the boat. It's about there are people, and listen, there are channels that do that, and that's fine. I have no problem with them, and they can do that all. Like I said, I support them in what they do. I've said that in front of police officers when I do my First Amendment trainings in front of departments. I've said I don't conduct myself this way, but I fully support the auditors that do, because
then support them, and then if they decide to conduct themselves in that way, then don't, like, we shouldn't say that's hurting the movement. Like,
I didn't say that.
I think that the way you do it is amazing. You've done a lot of great stuff, like more than most. And I think it's important the way you do it, and I respect that. But the way other people do it doesn't mean that that's the wrong way. That is needed as well. It's needed for people to say,
if I could say
this, that, and the thing is, we can't blame the auditors. Well, you have the right to do it, but you shouldn't, because then you'll end up in jail. Like, no, we need the public employees, the judges, the district attorneys to say, hey, no, there's nothing we can do. We honor
I want to make it clear, DMA. I want to make it really clear. If that's what it sounds like I'm saying, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they have a First Amendment right, an unequivocal First Amendment right to do what they're doing. Me personally, I don't do that, and anybody can do what they want, and they do. You know, you're going to do what you want. The Angry Vet's going to do what he wants. Wright's going to do what he wants. Erie's going to do what he wants. Everybody's going to do what they want. Everybody's responsible for their own actions, and if you have a right to do it, I fully support that right to do it. I don't think you're hurting the movement. I just think that in order to bring people to the other side. Again, for me, I'm trying to bring other people from who are, you'll never get the full on boot throat, licking and sucking the whole throat, deep throating the boot people to come on your side. Never, right? But the people that are on the fence, you might be able to say, hey, listen, I'm all for government transparency. Listen, cursing at a cop is already protected.
So before we continue, I'll agree with some of the stuff you said there. As long as he's true and he does support people to do that. But, like he says, and to get other people on your side, you have to be more like Long Island. That's true. But can you comment what you think about Chili and how he audits? So the thing about Chili is, and I say this in my upcoming video on Saturday, guys, is that it's all about the activism, right? That's the most important thing. And like, there's lots of us that don't get along. You guys just don't know that, right? And the reason why I don't, and like for public safety stuff, I really just got kind of thrown into that. I never really had anything to say about for public safety. I just was up on a panel with Direct D, and then Chris Ryder came up there and started going after me just because I'm friends with Direct D, and that's how I got involved. But I don't really want to be involved in that because I think that the activism is the most important thing. So I think Chili's badass, dude. I mean, do I really like the man? Not really. I mean, some people really love Chili, and some people can't stand him. The reason I don't like him is because of how he came into my Social Security Administration audit, and then like a couple of days later was like threatening to sue me, just because I said, hey, if you're going to donate for my arrest for attorney fees and everything, just donate straight to me, not to Chili. That's all I said. And then he got all hurt about it. And I was like, dude, it sounds like you're trying to you came there on purpose to pick a fight with me, bro. So I don't like that about him, but activism wise, I mean, some people don't like him, but I mean, I like him. I've always liked his style, dude. And sometimes, there was a point where I really didn't like that guy. And I'd see like a short of him just come up, and I would be like, dang, dude, after the short was over, like, yeah, man, that was badass. You know what I mean? So even if I don't like you, I still always am going to support the activism part of it though. So, Chili has his flaws, and what's his motive? I'm not sure, but the guy is good at what he does. I think he is anyways. I don't think you can have your opinions about him, but I don't think you can really deny that, he's not good at what he does. Right. We could all at least agree on that, with putting your feelings aside.
Nobody that's been, I think this point is, it's not a valid point because, you say we need people over there to, curse at cops so that way, it's protected. Cursing at the cops has already went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Brandon Mitchell up here said something a little bit ago that if you don't exercise your rights, they go away, right? Like, that's true, man. It's already protected. So does that mean that we just give up, right? Like they say, that the rights are like muscles, right? They are. I mean, so we just made case law one time and that's it. No, dude, it'll go away. You have to keep doing it. That's what I think. You have to let them, it has to be affirmed over and over and over again. Like, just, we made a little couple case law. That's good. I mean, we made case law already. Like he said, it's clearly established that you can curse at the cops, but people are still getting arrested for it though. Right. And then Long Island, he'll say here, well, yeah, but he's going to win. He's going to win. Well, okay, then we need people to win so they can get it to the point to where they're not getting arrested for it though. Right. Just making the case law isn't enough. If it's continuing to happen, making the case law is not the goal. Mitigating the behavior is the goal, right? So that's like when you're talking to a girl and you get the phone number, like, oh, that's the goal. No, that's just the beginning. Like the ultimate goal is like a long-term relationship, right? That's the goal, not get the phone number. That's what the case law is just the phone number, guys.
And has been held as protected speech.
There's a guy in Spokane, Washington, who's fighting that charge right now.
And I went to jail for telling the chick to suck my dick. But at the end of the day,
his lawyers don't think so.
Fight it, you will win.
His lawyers are bootleggers.
That's the whole point.
Let me know when I can jump in, guys.
Cursing at the cops.
Go for it, bro.
You can go right. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Okay. All interesting points made here, guys. I just want to bring up a couple other points real quick. One is that there is no handbook on how to exercise our rights, right? So at the end of the day, every man is free to exercise his rights however he sees fit. Okay, whether we like it or not doesn't matter. I don't care for the way Westboro Baptist Church exercises its freedom of speech, but I also understand that I have to protect it, right?
I think we all agree on that.
So there is no handbook for that. Some of us choose to go the calmer route. Some people choose to go a different route. That's fine and dandy, right? The only hurt that it does to the community is when bootlickers generalize us like a lot of us generalize cops, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, Angry Vet says he's never met an angry cop, or he's never met a good cop. Angry Vet, you're 0.0000001% of the cops in the United States that you've actually met is not a good enough sample size to say that all cops are bad, right? Just like if I know, let's say, 3 guys in my, you know, the state of Florida, and they don't like to work, I shouldn't go around saying everybody in Florida is lazy, because that's not a good enough sample size.
Yeah, but does that mean I shouldn't? Does that mean that I should give them the chance to fuck me, or because I'm at the level where trust a single one until they give me a reason to, and none of them have given me a reason.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that we have to be open, right? Now, because I don't put out the aura of all cops are bad, I actually have cops contacting me. Angry Vet, how many cops have contacted you?
Not a single one.
Do you think it might be because they don't want to contact you because you're just going to curse them out?
No, I think they don't contact me because I'm going to call them out.
Call them out for what? Contacting you about corruption in their department?
So Rogue Nation makes a good point there. That's true. Like I said, Long Island's right on that. You can affect more change this way. I've had cops reach out to me too, email, several of them. A lot of them are former cops that had to quit their job because of all the corruption. And I actually had this one guy who's in Colorado. He might come up and do an interview with me up here. So I got to actually reach out to him again. So that's true. Like, people aren't going to want to, reach out to Angry Vet, right? Because it's not going to go anywhere. They just think that they hate them all. So I think that's important to separate, is like the hatred. You know what I mean? Like Bay Area says, we shouldn't hate police. We should just hate bad policing, right? There's a difference. But I do agree with Long Island, or with Angry Vet, on one thing coming up right here.
Well, I mean, if
Angry Vet, I'd like to tell you right now, dude, on the record here, that I agree 100% with what you say, bro. And let me explain. Okay, I agree. There is no such thing as a good cop. Now, I'm not saying that all cops are bad individuals, and I've said this before. There's tons of cops that are fine gentlemen and fine women. I've said before, my cousin is a police officer, and I love my cousin. I just would like him more if he quit his job. Now, here's the reason why there's no such thing as a good cop, okay? Because number one, there's two main reasons. Number one, just because you're whistleblowing on some other cop doesn't mean that you're a good cop. And I love Matt Thornton, and I've spoke with Matt Thornton. He might come up and do a panel with me. He's going to let us, we're going to chop it up. I think he's great. I want to highlight him. But I don't think Matt Thornton's a good cop. And the reason is because how many unconstitutional laws are tons, right? All cops, they swear an oath to the Constitution. It's just a formality.
Long Island said, make sure you tell him that on the panel. If he ever comes up, I will tell him that. I'm not going to be like, hey, man, I'm going to be a douchebag to Matt Thornton, because I love Matt Thornton, dude. You guys should subscribe to him. He's awesome. He's a cop that basically loves auditors, and he does a lot of shorts, and he calls out other cops for the same stuff that we do. Like, my name's right here and all that BS that they do. But yeah, I will tell him that. I don't have a problem with telling Matt Thornton that. So let's continue.
To get the job, they don't even know the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment. Clearly, we've all seen that.
That's a
they enforce laws they enforce orders without question. They enforce unconstitutional laws, and not only that, even take Matt Thornton, great guy. I think he's freaking awesome. I've said that publicly a bunch of times. All cops don't start off as a detective Matt Thornton solving real crimes, do they? They start off at the bottom of the hill with their radar gun, pulling people over for victimless crimes, stealing money from them. That's not protecting anyone. They're creating conflict where otherwise there wouldn't be any. So again, to reiterate, not all cops are bad individuals, but the very act of being a police officer by default makes you bad.
And I had people in the comment section on this video saying that, oh, DMA, you can't just judge all cops without a blanket, a blanket statement that all cops are bad. And it's like, they don't listen, man. I'm like, dude, I said that they're not bad people, right? They're just, the job is what makes them bad, right? So people can't understand that. Like, you don't give an explanation, even though I gave an explanation right there. Like, they just, the cognitive dissonance, they can't have anything else that challenges the way they think. It's weird. It's weird behavior. Humans are something else, man.
I just want to say one thing. When you're talking about a collective, and you're saying that there's no good cops, DMA, and because they're all taking money from victimless crimes, I agree. I agree with that aspect of the victimless crimes and getting tickets. But when do we start as people, whether you want to call us citizens, people, alpha males, or whatever you want to say? When do we, as alpha males, as you said, or alpha?
I said alpha of my own life.
Okay. Where do we, as alpha of our own lives, take accountability for our own lives? What are those officers have the authority to take money from in a victimless crime because of why, right? You're blaming the officer for doing the job that he got hired to do. But when are we going to take accountability for electing these people?
Okay, so then I guess just, following orders is fine, right? Like somebody's paying you to do something, so, and it's government, so that makes it okay. That's what Long Island's saying here, I guess, right? We shouldn't blame the cop. He's just doing the job that he was hired to do, right? Remember the Nazis when they said it was just following orders, right? Like that wasn't an excuse for them, right? Like just because someone's paying you to do it, man, like we all know law doesn't equal morality. Slavery was legal, right? Hiding Jews was illegal, right? And we're going to get into talking about drunk driving here. So I'll wait till we get to that. But no, just saying that, oh, he's just doing his job, but that's not an excuse, man. That I completely disagree with him on that. He's doing too much now.
When we
that's very simple. That's very simple.
So when are we going to take accountability for the legislature that we as people elect that make these laws? The law is the law. They're electing they are, and you don't know. Again, making it's very disingenuous to make a generalization about any group of people, even cops. I don't know if there's a cop out there who's never wrote a ticket in his life. You just don't know that.
Are you serious? You
think
don't know? All rookies? All rookies have never written a ticket?
Yeah, man. To say that you don't know if a cop has ever written a ticket in his life, I mean, come on, dude. Right? Come on.
Most crime. I mean, dude, all of them have, man. To say that's crazy. You say that. But here's the thing: you said,
you don't know.
You said, okay, a couple things. Number one, you said, well, it's not the cops' fault. They're doing the job that they were told to do. And I'm not saying the cops are as bad as Nazis.
Well, he did. He said, oh, I didn't say it was the cop's fault. Well, we did kind of say that, didn't he? He said, that you're blaming the cop, but he was just doing the job that he was hired to do. I mean, he didn't straight up say, that, but I mean, it was implied, right? It's the way I interpreted it.
But that's what the Nazi said. I'm just following orders, and it wasn't an excuse for them. Okay, and then they're a man first, they're a man first, and they're a cop second. That's the thing they got to keep in mind. And if somebody's telling me, hey, I'm going to pay you to go steal money from this person just because government told you to, and somebody's giving you a paycheck, and we say it's okay, that's being a member of a collective.
So you think in a society for these victims of crimes, you think people could go 100 miles on a school zone and there should be no consequences for that?
No, but what I am saying,
that's not really realistic, though. I mean, now we're talking about school zones real quick and speeding, like. That I just don't see that being a realistic issue. If you get rid of speeding laws, now all of a sudden people are going to go 100 miles an hour in a school zone. I mean, come on.
Well, a couple things. Number one, if there was no speed limits, let me explain. Let me answer your question. If there was no such thing as a speed limit, do you think that there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to go 70 miles an hour in a school zone?
They do it they do it now when there is
exactly, and it's already illegal. So what's going to make it illegal?
By definition, that would be.
So, yes, it's already illegal now, right? And people still do it. So, but you do have to give your fellow man some credit, right? Like, just law doesn't actually prevent crime from happening, right? All that it does is makes it illegal, and then cops come afterwards, and then they, make some reports, and maybe they catch the guy, maybe they don't. But the fact of the matter is that police don't prevent crime. They don't. Okay, let's continue, because I had another point that I wanted to make. I don't know why this thing does this sometimes. Oh, there we go. Okay.
That more people would do it because there's no consequence.
No, because I have a conscience, dude. The only reason that I don't murder someone, it's not because it's illegal. I'm a good person. I'm not just going to kill people, man. And most people.
Okay, that's the point I was going to make. So, to say that if you make something legal that just everyone's going to do it, I don't think that's. I think you're naive if you think that. You do have to give your fellow man some credit, but. I do understand. You're also naive if you think that if people know they can get away with something, that they're not going to do it, right? So, like, what I'm trying to say is that if people can get away with something, a lot of people will do it. That's true. So I'm not going to be naive and say that. But what I didn't get to say in this is that we don't always need government, though, to hold people accountable. That's the thing. Everyone wants to use government, which is force and coercion. It's pointing guns at people, basically. Government is an opinion with a gun. That's what it is. But we don't need that. The free market can handle so much more stuff than people give it credit for, right? So the reason why I say that people will get away with things if no one's there, if they can get away with it, is because I was walking my dogs the other day, and and you're walking your dog and you see poop just laying in the grass by the sidewalk, right? you know, the reason the poop's there is because there was probably no one watching, right? They're probably walking their dog at night and like they just feel like picking it up, right? But if, you know, there was no speed laws, people aren't going to speed because people are worried about other people judging them, right? Everyone's always worried about what other people think. So yeah, people aren't going to speed, not because it's illegal now, but because they're like, dude, I don't want to be known as like the douchebag that's, you know, speeding in a school zone, right? That's what I really believe. And now if they get away with it, like, you know, let's say there's a, you know, the speed limit, it's 45 and you're going 60, but you know, it's 2 a.m, right? So no one's around. So you're going to speed now because there's no one there to hold you accountable, right? But like at that point, who cares? You know, there's no one on the road. I mean, how is that unsafe to go 60 in a 45? 2 a.m, you're the only one on the road. I mean, who cares if they're going 60 at that point then, right? So that's the thing, is that the free market can handle stuff. And I'm a big advocate of that. And I always say, you know, instead of using force and coercion, use the free market. Conscious consumerism, it's the reason why people shop at Whole Foods instead of the regular grocery stores. So they don't get pumped full of GMOs, right? So same thing, you know, I have to take my business away from people sometimes. And a lot of people won't do that. Like, oh, you know, just charge to the game. But no, you know, if you want the free market to do its job with competition, you have to utilize it. I just had to get a new dog groomer because the lady, I took my dogs in there and I loved this groomer. I loved that place, but they were, came back, oh, Minnie's pregnant and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you sure? Like, yeah, she's pregnant. And they're like, her nipples are big and blah, blah, blah. And one of the other, groomers said that they could feel puppies inside and all this stuff. And I was like, they're freaking me out. Right. And I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pregnant is she? And they're like, oh, we're all sure she's pregnant. Right. And I was thinking when her last period was, and I figured it out. It was like 70 something days. It was like 70 days. And a dog's heat cycle, they're pregnant for 63 days. So that means she's about to go into labor. Right. So it freaked me out. And I had to take her into the doctor, get an x-ray. She's not pregnant. Right. So then they do the like survey thing. They text you a survey. So I told them, you know, my disappointment, you know, you guys made me go spend $90 on an x-ray for no reason, freaked me out. And then I get a call from the manager and they just, you know, apologize. Oh, we shouldn't do that. You know, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. You know, like the apology is great, but like an apology without fixing the behavior, you know, without making someone whole, that's just manipulation, right? Like when in a relationship, when someone apologizes, but then they just keep continue to do the same thing, right? Like I was in a relationship once where like the person would apologize and then like a couple hours later do the exact same thing that they were just apologizing for. I'm like, that's not a real apology. That's manipulation. So if you're not going to pay the $90 and make me whole or give me a $90 credit or something, dude, like I'm going to take my business elsewhere. So that's what you guys have to do. So the free market, guys, not government, force and coercion.
How to give your fellow man more credit, man. Like just because, you know, somebody says we can't make drugs legal because then everyone will be junkies. Is that what you say about yourself? If they make heroin legal, I'm just going to be shooting up all the time. Like
heroin,
no, man.
I don't care about. Listen, heroin is different because it's not putting anybody's life at risk. It's not putting my children's life at risk. You know, heroin it's an individual choice that you're making. If you're shooting up heroin, you're doing it to your own body. You can overdose on yourself. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's an individual. It's apples and oranges.
Okay, so Long Island missed my point there. Like he wants to talk about heroin, like the drug war specifically. That's different. Like I didn't want to talk about heroin being legal or the drug war. I was just making the analogy. I was making the comparison that, you know, if drugs were legal, anyone here in the chat, are you going to say that if they made drugs legal tomorrow, that you're just going to go start shooting up heroin, right? Or you're going to go buy some crack, right? I don't think anyone in here would say that that's what they're going to do, right? That was the point that I was making, right? So if you make speeding illegal, doesn't mean, or if you make speeding no speed laws, it doesn't mean that people are just going to be driving 75 in the, you know, school zone like he was saying. It's not realistic. That's the point. But he started saying apples to oranges. I think he missed that.
When you're speeding in a school zone where kids are passing, or you're driving drunk, when my niece driving drunk, if you make it home okay, that's okay because nobody was hurt, right? But when my niece was hit by a drunk driver who at 3 years old lost her legs, then according to you, we can't prosecute drunk drivers unless there's a victim.
According to him, making it illegal is not going to change anything.
I am absolutely against drunk driving. Okay, I don't think people should.
So how can you be against drunk driving but not against speeding in the school zone?
Hold on, let me finish, man. So we're talking about drunk driving now, but no, I don't think that. I don't think that speeding should be a crime. No, unless, now here's the thing. If you're speeding and because of your reckless driving, you do end up hurting someone, thus creating a victim, then I'm okay with it being aggravated because you were driving recklessly. But like, I don't think just for simply speeding and not actually hurting anyone, no, you shouldn't have money stolen from you for that or locked in a cage. But the same thing with drunk driving. Like, I don't think people should drink and drive. We should educate people that this hurts people. It potentially causes victims. But you got to keep in mind, and I sympathize, I empathize with your niece or whoever, your family. And like, I've had people being hurt from drunk driving too. But the thing is that the act of actually drinking and driving is a victimless crime by definition. And I've gotten a DUI. I actually got a DWAI. It's like 0.06, hardly drunk. And I've been through the classes, and I learned that most people drink and drive 800 times before they even get their first DUI, not before they get into a wreck and kill people. But
so John Felix actually made a good point when he was doing his reaction to this video. And I thought for sure that he was going to be against the drunk driving thing because it's a very unpopular opinion, guys. But he said, you know, that I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically that it's putting people in danger is the thing, you know, that's the part that creates the victim. But there's lots of people that can have different tolerances, right? Like the way it's set up. I mean, if you're a heavy drinker, my uncle used to drink literally a case of beer a day, and he wasn't even slurring his words, nothing. He was fine because he built the tolerance up. But then there's also, you know, some people drink one beer and they're like, there's no way they can drive, right? But they might even still be technically under the legal limit. They might only be at a 0.03. So technically they're legally allowed to drive, right? Drinking and driving isn't illegal. It's a certain limit, right? But that's the part. If you are putting someone in danger, then yeah, but a lot of times people aren't putting people in danger. And like I said, that's true. People drink and drive to stat. At least it was then. I don't know if it's different now. It's got to be roughly the same. That people drink and drive roughly 800 times before they even get their first DUI, not before they, you know, get into a wreck or anything like that. So, and I'm not saying that, you know, yes, do you guys just go to the bar and get wasted and then drive home? I'm not saying that. Okay, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it requires a victim for it to be a crime. And that's how we should be treating things. It's just a fundamental principle, guys.
That's the facts of it. And so like, if somebody were to drink and drive and then they got in an accident and they hurt someone, yes, I think they should get in trouble for hurting someone because that's already illegal. But we don't need to make it double illegal, but I would be okay with making it aggravated.
I just want to clear up this one comment really quick, just really quick, and then somebody can go. So you think that drunk driving in and of itself without any aggravating factors should be illegal?
That's kind of like when the mayor asked me if I support pornography in a library, and I said I do not support pornography in a library, but I don't think the benefits of banning it outweigh the risks. Same thing. I do not support people drinking and driving, but yes, I do not think that people should have any punishment if they do not hurt anyone. I live by the non-aggression principle, which states that the only time force is necessary is if somebody else initiates force on you.
Again, this is something that we have to realize is conditioning of our society, right? There is no victimless crime, right? And the reason there's victimless crimes like DMA saying, like speeding and DUIs, where they don't actually have a victim, is because society, us, maybe not us specifically, but society has deemed that to be a crime against society, right? And the victim is society. That's what.
So I'm a huge fan, and I respect Rogue Nation quite a bit. I think he's a really intelligent man. I've spoken to him on the phone. I've had him up on my panels before. And I'd love to meet him and actually audit with him because he is one of the ones that I respect the most. He's one of my favorites, auditor wise. But I disagree with so much of the stuff that he says, though. Audit wise, yeah, but he's a statist, dude. And he doesn't say himself he's a statist. He doesn't like to associate himself as a statist, but I mean, he really is. And a lot of people are statists. You know, a lot of people in this chat right now are statists. You know, you might not think that you are, but anytime that you want to use government force and coercion to get your way or to make someone else do something, whether it's good or bad, that's a statist to me. So to say that society is the victim, right? And that, you know, we all agreed, you know, to this, like we didn't all agree, and I didn't agree.
Society has deemed, right? So if we don't like these laws, then we have to change them, right? But we can't get mad and say these people that are hired to enforce these laws that we as society have created are bad people, right? Because
see, now he's saying the same thing, right? That Long Island was saying is, you know, oh, you know, we can't get mad at the cops. They're just doing their job, right? Like, no, come on, man. Just doing your job. Really? I mean, when these people were, you know, like catching runaway slaves and stuff, like I said in this video a little bit ago, you're a man first and then you're a cop second, right? You can't just be like, oh man, you know, the government told me to catch these slaves and bring them back. I mean, come on. You know, the government told me to lock this guy in a cage because he was in possession of a plant. You know, I got to do it. That's why I could never be a cop, man. Just because of so many, all the laws that are just so BS, man. You know, and then you know that guy. You guys know Ronnie Coleman? He was like the big time Mr. Olympia guy in like the 90s, I think. That black dude is like gigantic. He was a cop. And I was like, dude, what kind of hypocrite? Like, what happened? What would happen if, like, you know, there was a drug bust and somebody got busted with a bunch of steroids? Like, what is he going to do? You're like in a catch-22, right? Because, I mean, if you arrest him, then you're a hypocrite, right? Because clearly you're doing steroids, right? Like, there's no question about it. But if you do arrest him, or if you don't arrest him, though, then, you know, you're not enforcing the law, right? So, like, I don't know. I thought that's bizarre. You know, cops, you know, they're men first and they're cops second too. So just doing your job. I don't understand why people still think that that's like an acceptable excuse.
Right, because listen,
compare them to Nazis,
if we don't like the laws, we need to change them, right?
No,
Okay.
there is no way to fucking change the law. That's a mythical thing. Give me another option, bruh. I don't have $80,000, all these lawyers and shit to change the fucking laws. Most people don't even know what you know.
If there was like a Democratic vote on just without any type of legislature or anything like that in the state of any state, and there was a Democratic vote to say, well, are we going to get rid of drunk driving or speeding in school zones or whatever? I guarantee you that the collective of the people of that state would vote to keep drunk driving illegal. It's a crime against society.
Well, you said democratic vote, but I mean, democracy is actually a horrible form of government, and the founders hated democracy. Ben Franklin said democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner.
Example, I know we're not in a democracy, but I was just making the point that if society as a whole, for the state or for the United States as a whole, however you want to think about it.
Democracy is 51% of the population enforcing their will on the 49%, which means the 49% is slaves, and that's democracy. That's not what we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have elected officials that are allowed to make laws that are within the bounds of the Constitution.
There's never going to be a
and call myself out on this too. Long Island did say, I know that we don't live in a democracy. So like, I just like Long Island didn't understand my point. I didn't understand his point. So I get it now. My emotions were high. I was getting passionate, but he was just saying that, you know, if you did a vote, that most people would say that drunk driving should be enforced. And I agree. Most people would make that vote. That's true. But just to say that, you know, that's because most people would think that right now doesn't mean that it won't ever change, right? And some people will be like, oh, there's no way there's no way that we'll ever go to making drinking and driving legal, right? Well, I mean, don't say that. That's close-minded, because there's times when people say, oh, there's no way that there won't be slaves, you know what I mean? Or there's no way that marijuana will ever be legal. Like, people said this stuff. It'll always be illegal, you know what I mean? There's lots of laws, you know, the segregation laws, right? There's no way that blacks will be able to use restrooms with the whites, you know? So people think that stuff all the time. Stuff happens, guys. Paradigm shifts happen, you know, and we're always evolving. So just because it's been a certain way doesn't mean that we should never try to surpass our previous best, right? We should always try to do better. And tradition is no excuse to stand in the way of progress.
Consensus on anything. Like, you think drunk driving should be legal, I think drunk driving should be illegal, because of experiences in my life that I've personally been affected by, where a 3-year-old loses her ability to walk when she's just starting to learn when she just got the ability to walk. Because
I mean, I don't think they were different at all, dude. It was a paradigm shift. It's only different now because we had the paradigm shift and everyone thinks differently. See, it's the exact same. It's not different whatsoever. Perceived authority. What's up? Shout out to you, by the way. But no, man, it's just when the paradigm shift happens, then people will be on board with something different. It's just that everyone right now thinks that, no, dude, we have to have drunk driving has to be illegal. You know, again, this is just my opinion, guys. So you guys make your own judgment on this.
Because of a man's.
But I know that you guys have an open mind, so you know, you guys might not agree with me on everything, and you shouldn't. And I'm happy to be challenged, and people, you know, these conversations need to be had. So I can only try to peacefully persuade people to think the way I do, right? And peaceful persuasion is always more effective than force and coercion. And it seems like what Long Island and Rogue Nation are trying to advocate for is that we need more force and coercion is what we need, right? We need to use the system to fix the system that the system created. That's just mind-blowing to me.
Poor decision. Again, I know that you say that DMA, I'm not trying to say that you're saying that specific situation should be that obviously has a victim, right? Multiple victims in that situation. But what I'm saying is that when you make the decision to drive drunk, and you make that decision, it's a decision that you're making to drive drunk on the road, you are endangering every time you do it.
And I agree.
You are endangering people like my niece. What society has deemed is that doing that, the ticket that the first of all, you don't go to jail, right? You don't, you got a DWI, right? So you didn't go to jail over it. You didn't get a jail sentence over it, right? You had to pay.
Yeah, I got a jail sentence for that. Well, I mean, I guess I get a jail sentence, but I did go to jail. Everyone goes to jail when they get a DUI. I mean, I guess some people actually don't. Usually it's women. So you don't agree with it, but then you say the system will never work for us. I'm not sure what you mean, because that seems contradictory, but I mean, if you don't have to agree, but the system will never work for us, I definitely agree with that. The system will never work for us. It's not designed to work for you guys. It's an illusion. It's a facade. It's a mass manipulation. It's a psyop, guys. You've been taught lies your entire life, all through indoctrination in public schools, government schools, guys, right? The reality is nothing of what you think it is. And some people are awake to this type of stuff, but a lot of people are still not. I think even George Bush said once, he was quoted as saying, well, I don't know if he wrote it or something, but that if everyone knew what was really going on, they'd all have us lynched. And that's true, man. If you guys knew the stuff that's going on, I mean, your mind would be blown, the type of stuff that happens that I can't even talk about because my channel will get deleted. But not only that, just like the history, right? Like, just real quick, people think literally still, they believe that like, hundreds of years ago that people were primitive, right? Like there has been way even more technological advanced societies than we have now, like Atlantis, right? I mean, you look at these buildings that were made in like the 1700s, hammer and chisel, like these immaculate buildings that are like precise, like the pyramids or like all these buildings in Europe. Amazing sculptures, these gigantic, huge, however many story buildings that are like structurally sound, and they're like the carvings on them are immaculate, like incredible detail. Hammer and chisel. I mean, dude, seriously, hammer and chisel, guys, are you that naive? Hammer and chisel? Do you think that's how they made that? Hammer and chisel? Come on. We couldn't even, the technology today, you couldn't even do that. They had like some type of laser technology or some type of like frequency, like vibration noise technology that like would carve that kind of stuff or something. But there's lots of technology that they had that they don't want you to know about. Like a lot of those old buildings, they had that like antenna thing sticking out the top. You know what I'm talking about? They were like a lot of them think they were like power plants, like the stuff that Tesla was talking about, free power for everyone. And then they shut him down, right? And that's why everyone knows what's his name, the light bulb guy. Who's the light bulb guy? Was it Franklin or no? The guy, the DC guy. I think Tesla was AC and the other guy was DC. Who is it? But Tesla's the real one. The DC guy wasn't. But that's what it was. It gets electricity through waves in the air, like Wi-Fi or something. Edison, yeah, thanks, guys. Edison. Anyways, guys, that's what it was. There was like a power plant, and you would go in there, and they had like people would lay down on the ground flat, and the vibrations would heal you. A lot of this stuff is coming to light now. Again, we're starting to open your eyes up. Tesla even said, if you want to know the secrets to the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration. It really is. It's the laws of the universe, guys. And we're having this like mass awakening right now. The earth is actually waking up. That's not for my spiritual channel, but we are. That's why time's going by so fast. And I know that time goes by fast when you get older. That's true, but not like this. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but time is blowing by. We're already more than halfway through this year, guys. Okay. Yes, Tesla 369. All right, guys, let's get back to it.
Some fines and you had to go to some classes, right? You didn't go to jail. Nobody locked you in a dungeon for 6 months. But when you do that and you make that choice, you could have been the person that hit somebody else's niece, somebody else's mother, somebody else's. And what society is deemed is that, yes, there might not be any immediate victim in that situation, but you are a danger to society as a whole that you could have in that situation. If that cop didn't pull you over, you could have. 10 minutes later, you could have. You
remember that movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise? It was where like they used to arrest people for like crimes they were going to commit.
Crime. Yeah.
That's like the same thing as you could have. Like you could have hurt someone, so we're going to lock you in a cage. You didn't hurt anyone, but you could have.
Like I said, you didn't get locked in a cage.
But if you did,
everyone who gets a DUI is locked in a cage.
How many people?
Yeah, he just said that you didn't get locked in a cage for DUI. Some stuff that he says, I'm like, what? Like when he said that, not all cops, you don't know that all cops wrote like speeding tickets. Like this is the stuff that's coming out of his mouth. I'm like, man, I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean? Not everyone goes to jail for DUI. That just isn't, like I said, there are some times, but I mean, it's like probably less than 1% of the time that people don't go to jail for a DUI. Everyone goes to jail for a DUI.
What do you know, DMA, in your life? How many people do you think you've known in your life? A couple thousand, maybe?
Probably
right?
at least like 10.
At least a couple thousand, right? That is literally 0.00001% of the United States population. So by you saying, I've never known anybody who hasn't drinking.
Personal shit. Yeah.
You take a big enough pool, you take enough thousands of people, and it's going to be relatively the same. When they do scientific tests, they don't say, okay, there's 300 million people in America. We have to do every 300 million on this survey. No, they take a few thousand or 10,000, and they use that as their evidence.
Let's take. I understand that, but let's take drinking and driving out of this scenario. You know that there's people who don't drink, right? Millions of people probably that don't drink alcohol, have never drank alcohol in their life. You know that, right? So it's literally impossible for them to have drinking and drive. So by you saying, because I don't know anybody, everybody I know has done it.
I might be having an open panel coming up soon, dude. So I might have people up here just chopping it up about topics and stuff. So
no, that means that
you're trying to like twist stuff. What I'm saying is that a lot of people, even the people that advocate against drunk driving, have actually done it themselves. That's what I'm saying. But what I wanted to ask you though was, Long Island, do you own yourself?
Do I own myself?
Yeah, like where it's going.
I make my own decisions. Yeah.
So you own yourself. So you are a free, independent, beautiful human being. So if you own yourself, then that means that anyone who uses force and coercion against you when you haven't committed a crime being a crime that has a victim, doesn't that mean that if someone were to lock you in a cage for committing a crime that has no victim, wouldn't that make you the victim if you own yourself?
No, because like it would depend on the scenario of which that happened. Again, like I said, if
he's done nothing wrong. And
okay, guys. So real quick, it's a fundamental principle. I've said this. Some of you guys have already heard me say this, but I'll say it again. It's a fundamental principle that we all learn when we're children, right? And I get all the stuff that I learned from Adam Kokesh. Okay. When we were kids, we all learned don't hit, right? That was it. So one of the first lessons we learned, just don't hit. Oh, Joe Cool's in here. What up, bro? It wasn't don't hit unless you're a man with a badge and a gun, right? It wasn't don't hit unless you're military. Don't hit unless you're government. It's just don't hit, guys. So yes, if you own yourself, then that's a violation of your rights. Your rights only go as far as to not violate someone else's rights, right?
But he walked across the street, jaywalking, won't sign the ticket, and they lock his ass up.
Nobody owns themselves, right? We're all members of the society, right? We owe obligation.
We're all members of the society. See, like I said, he's a statist. We're all, members of the collective, right? Man, that's a very dangerous way to think. That's just my opinion.
To other citizens, right? It's called the social contract.
Like if you go to buy, I don't think people should not be able to buy guns. I just think that if you buy one, you should have to sign a contract saying that you're not going to do like a mass shooting or suicide.
What society are you a part of? I'm not a part of that nonsense where the judges get to create laws and shit.
Yeah, but not everyone
enter this contract by our own consent, Joe.
And here's the thing: it's like saying, "Oh, well, if you don't like it, you can go move somewhere else." Well, I mean, that's like saying, "Okay, well, just because we've always done it this way, like I love my country, I'm an American, but it doesn't mean that I agree with the people that are in charge." And saying, "Well, this is the way it's been done, and this is the way, at the age of consent, 18 years old, when you can come into binding contracts."
It's not going to be that big of an issue to sign. Take 10 minutes, sign a contract, get it notarized. You can get it notarized at a post office or a bank. and then it'll probably cut the mass shootings probably all of the way, if not 90%.
Because of a fucking piece of paper? Are you listening
Yeah,
to your fucking ignorant self? Well, that's, like tradition is no excuse to stand in the way of progress. And we should always try to surpass our previous best and saying, well, this is the way it is. And you signed up for this. Well, what if I didn't sign up for it? What if I didn't consent?
So understand that we gave the consent. Now, again, we can revoke the consent if we leave, but to act like we didn't consent because we didn't know about it, right? Because it's in the law. It's always been in the law, right?
You ever signed a contract for like work to be done at your house? Like say you get a new roof, right? The guy, if you don't sign the contract, the guy doesn't have to do your roof. But if you sign that contract, he has to do your roof. He can't just void the contract.
A contract is like the heart that can be broken in 2 seconds.
Nope.
And a couple of guys like me and DMA, which, by the way, I agree with the victimless crime thing that DMA is talking about. However, I don't want people to mistake my understanding of the system as an endorsement of the system.
Consented to slavery because it was legal and it was part of the system and it was law. Did they consent? Curious.
Yes.
No, they did not, Joe. But again,
I think the point he's making is that law doesn't equal morality.
That truck outside of the courthouse again with a sign that says there is such thing as jury nullification. Look it up.
Very, very important jury nullification. One of the most important things. But again, nobody on the jury is going to find you not.
See? Yeah, but he's going to say no one on the jury is going to find you not guilty. That's true. But again, paradigm shift, guys.
Not guilty of driving drunk and say there's a victimless crime here.
Dude, perceived authority, man. You sound like a libertarian to me, bro. Is that what you are?
Because they understand the impact that it could have on anyone at any given time. Again, drugs, when heroin was brought up, that's completely different because people are making their own choices they're making their own choices to shoot heroin or to do whatever they want to do. There is no excuse for driving drunk whatsoever. It's a poor decision in life. And again, you're not, it has to be
Yes.
proportionate to your bad decision, right? So your bad decision, yes, DMA went to jail. He's probably spent the night in jail and he had to pay some fines and he had to go to classes. And according to him, he's never driven drunk since. So at the end of the day, who knows if DMA never got arrested for driving drunk, if he would have continued to drive drunk and eventually killed someone's daughter, son, niece, nephew, uncle. So it served as a deterrent for DMA to stop driving drunk. There has to be a deterrent.
It wasn't a deterrent.
I was going to ask you.
Like we say, murder is already illegal and people still murder
No, it
people.
doesn't mean
But the
cause
thing that's
related.
keeping people from murdering people isn't because it's illegal. And to be honest with you, I'll just be honest, transparent. When I got my first DUI, I was like 19 years old. I drank and drove a whole bunch of times after that. But I don't drink and drive now. And like, I don't drink and drive because I matured and I eventually grew up and I realized that, hey man, I was kind of, I was being dangerous. I was young and dumb. And so like people wake up and they grow up and they realize that. That's the reason why. It's my own morality. It's my own code of ethics that I live by that made me say, hey, I shouldn't drink and drive. I need to do the responsible thing. And if I can't afford an Uber, if I can't afford an Uber, then I just don't go drinking that night.
Right. And that's great. Listen, and it's great that you decided to change on your own. But I'm saying is that's your specific case. But there could be somebody out there, and I'm sure there is somebody out there.
There could be. I don't think that the benefit outweighs the risk. That's my opinion, guys. Just like when the left says that, we got to ban guns because if it just saves one life, right? Like, I don't think that the benefit, even if it does save one life, I think really it would cost more lives, honestly, but the benefit doesn't outweigh the risk. I mean, that's why we have due process, right? And if you look at drunk driving, like I said, people drink and drive an average of 800 times before they even get their first DUI, not before they hurt someone. Of all of the people that have tens of thousands of dollars taken from them, right? They lost their license, they got reputational harm, they lost their job, like all of this stuff that happens to enforce DUI laws. I don't think that it is worth the risk. I think that it's terrible when people get unalived from DUIs or if they get hurt from DUIs. And that's why I think that we should put the money into education and educating people on how it's dangerous to do and set up programs for all the however much dollars they spend on fighting drunk driving. How about we start making programs, right? How about if we're having all these tax dollars taken from us, most Americans pay 50% of their income to the government every year. How about we use some of that money instead of giving, billions to foreign countries? How about we use some of that money for programs, for public transportation for people that are drinking, right? Do stuff like that instead of just locking people in cages. That's not fixing it. I really don't think that it is. It talks about deterrent. Yeah, but the benefit doesn't outweigh the risk. I just don't think so. There's other ways to achieve mitigating drunk driving without the current way.
That got pulled over for driving drunk, suffered the consequences for driving drunk, paid the fine, went to classes, and they changed their ways. Dime, real quick, what do you think? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on this, based on now that I know that I didn't know this about you before, but about at what age does a child become a victim to an older person in a sexual way, and at what age does the child become is a victim? What is the proper age for a child to be a victim of sexual assault by an adult? So, for example, I'll paint you a 50-year-old man, and what age is okay? Because I'm saying if you say that the child, wherever, minor, whatever you want to say, is agreeing to this relationship with the 50-year-old man, then there's no victim, unless you think that there's some sort of age limit to where that person can consent. What would be for you? What would make the child a victim if they're agreeing?
I think that children, they're not capable of making their own decisions yet because they haven't developed yet. So I mean, they say 18. Like honestly, sometimes I think 18 is not even old enough. Like, I don't even think 18-year-olds should be allowed to vote because they haven't developed their logic interpretation of the world yet, of this 3D reality we live in. So that's hard to say, but it's got to be at least 18.
At least 18, because that's what that's what's usually acceptable by the law. But but if you go by development of people's brains and things of that, or if you use that type of example, there are 18-year-olds that are more it's all your product of your environment and your how you were raised. And I'm a big believer of I grew up without a father, and I think that put certain disadvantages in my life. And I think fatherless homes are one of the biggest problems in this country. You need a strong male leadership in your home in order to be a success. And that's the 80% of people in jail grew up in fatherless homes, or some high percentage like that. Don't quote me on it, but this is why father's so important. If you reversed it and you just had the dad as a single parent, they don't go to jail as much as if it was a single mom.
I absolutely agree with Long Island on that. That's true, guys. People say, hey, you don't need a man to raise a child. Like, yeah, I mean, it's true. You don't need it, right? But it's not like a good idea to do that. And, I was raised without a father, and guess what? I was always in trouble with the law, man. I was such a bad kid, but everything prepares you for what you're going to do later, right? A lot of times. So all of my getting in trouble with the law prepared me for this. This is what I'm living my life now. Finally, this is what I'm supposed to do. But that's true, guys. If you take the parent away, if you take the dad away, the child is, I don't know how many more times likely to be a juvenile delinquent. But if you take the mom away and the parent the kid just lives with the dad, those statistics don't go up. They're just the same. So because the man is the masculine energy, right? It's the dominant, lay the hammer down, right? The authoritative energy. The woman is like the nurturing, mothering, the affectionate, the compassionate, the intuitive. That's the mother energy, but that doesn't always make it to be raised just solely by that. I mean, the government, they basically incentivize divorce now, right? Oh, you can get, child support, you can get alimony, you get all this stuff, right? So women initiate 90% of the divorces, right? More men will usually just want to stick it out. They want to just be in the relationship. They want to fix it. Women are just like, oh, I'm out of here. And they just, they take your money, dude. And they get alimony and all this stuff. And then they raise the kids and by themselves and they incentivize that. But children are, I don't know what I was going with it. I had a point. But it creates, these children growing up at a disadvantage. And maybe I'll think of what my point was. I hate it when I do that. But yeah, they incentivize it. And I think they do that on purpose, though, too, because children who grow up without a father, right, and these fatherless families, they're more easily to manipulate and control, right? Broken families are way more easy to manipulate and control. And then it makes people dependent upon the government, right? And then they want that. They want you to be dependent on them. That's why they're like, hey, you know what? Oh, you can't afford food? Yeah, vote for me and I'll give you food stamps, right? You can't afford healthcare? Vote for me. I'll give you Medicaid, right? Like they're trying to help you, but in reality, if the government didn't exist, you'd be better off anyways. Like Adam Kokesh said, if you were to make all the money you were to make and then half of your money just literally evaporated into the memory hole, you'd still be better off than the current reality of the government taking that money from you by force and then using that money to enact violent policies against you. And so the fatherless home thing, they incentivize it. And the reason why we see, all these kids who are just, straight up wussies, dude, like everyone's a wussy, man. You know what I mean? Because they don't have a father in the house. And it's not a good way to raise kids. And that's why everyone's all, we got the generation that we have, man. So anyways, he was right on that. I'm agreeing with Long Island on that.
But what I'm saying is that there are some adults that, age is an arbitrary number, that there are some adults that, are less mature than an 18-year-old kid, and they have the right to vote, or a 17-year-old, in different times of our world, there's, you became a man at 13, right? Or some countries acknowledge that you become a woman when you receive your period. There's a lot of different, again, we're talking about.
Where are you going with it?
Where I'm going with it is that there's different, it's subjective. I think that we all should agree that, being with a minor child when you're an adult is something that should be unacceptable in a society. But again, when you talk about a victimless crime, that 17 is, there's some states where 17
yes,
is
and then you say, but they're a kid, but then you.
And that's kind of weird too. Like the states that it's like 17. I've heard that like if you're 17 and you're like your boyfriend's 18, like that's like illegal, like that's crazy, dude. So like, you're in the same grade and like I turn 18 first and then she turns 18 like a few months later, and then that's illegal or something. Like that's crazy, dude. If that's the way that it is. Usually I think there's like a couple years, the statutory thing. I think it's like, 2 to 4 years typically in most states. So I don't think it's just like, oh, you're 18 and you're 17. That's stupid if that's the way it is.
An argument
But
is
my
who
point
determines
is
what a
that
kid is.
they're not seeing themselves as a victim. That's what I'm saying. Is that we as society, DMA, are protecting them because of our own personal beliefs. You would have put them on a lie detector and said, "I'm happy with this a 16-year-old girl." And they're like, "I'm happy with this guy. I know, he makes me happy. He does everything." But we as a society,
How does that argument hold for a motherfucker our age?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, and I see what you're saying, but that's like saying, well, hey, I totally agree with what you're saying, but that's, they're not old enough, so it doesn't count. Like, they have to be at least 18, because that's like these people saying, hey, children at 12 years old, they can decide their gender, and if they want to get, a sex change at 12 years old,
right.
they can.
And I
totally agree with you.
I agree on both of that. Right? We've accepted as a society, DMA, that 18 is that number, and I'm sure there's some people, that agree with that. I think at least 18, me personally, I think that's when you become a legal adult and you're able to make all the other decisions you can make in life.
So like the way when you apply the non-aggression principle to like what he's talking about with, children, is you should apply the non-aggression principle in that situation to the way you would apply it to like someone with a disability, right? Or, how you would apply it to your pets or something like that, right? Like a disabled adult, something like that. It's the same type of thing with children, right? So they're not really capable of, making their own decisions, so that you have to make those decisions for them.
I think that's a sideline argument. What about adults is what the meat of this argument was. How does him, I don't know what DMA is, how does that apply to him? Why we have to have some adults tell him what to do?
My argument was not that an adult telling another adult what to do. That's not my argument, Joe. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to get, when you talk about victimless crimes, and there are some victimless crimes like, crossing the, for example, when I think of a victimless crime, I think of it only hurts, for example, crossing a sidewalk, jaywalking, right? That is 100% a victimless crime, because the only person that can become really a victim in that situation is you when you get hit by your car. So you're making a decision in order to get hit by a car or not. And that is your decision as a free, man or woman to make, or you using.
Like seatbelt, right? Like you don't wear a seatbelt, so I have to steal money from you to protect you. Like, dude, if I'm not wearing a seatbelt, I'm only hurting myself, right? Like that's just, government is just so out of control, man. And, all the fluoride in the water has dumbed everyone down and made everyone so docile. Not just the fluoride in the water. There's lots of things, man. Like I said, the psyops, like if you knew what was going on, like I've said before, you are not the same man that your grandfather was. That's for sure. And the founders would have been stacking bodies years ago, guys. But the fact that people just accept this stuff now, the Revolutionary War was fought over like a 1% increase in tax, dude. And now everyone's just cool paying what they pay. Everyone's just cool with, click it or ticket, guys. I mean, yeah, you should wear your seatbelt. I wear mine. But to steal money from people for that? I mean, come on, dude. Gosh, man, people are just like such sheep, man. I can't like, so when I see these bootlickers, it's, like the trolls and stuff, I'm like, gosh, dude, thank God not everyone thinks like you. Because we'd just be slaves, dude. They don't understand that. If it wasn't for people like me and Long Island and Joe Cool and everyone in this chat, we'd be slaves. You guys know that, right? What you allow is what you teach. So if everyone was like the bootlickers, you wouldn't even be able to give a cop a dirty look, dude, without getting a ticket. You know what I mean? And it's true. It's just like I said, like Long Island said, well, it's already established to cuss at a cop, So if no one continued to do it, then they would just make it so that you don't need to. Make it illegal again. You know what I mean?
Drugs. I'm totally against the drug war.
But if I go 10
miles
over the
my
speed
daughter
limit,
doing heroin, I don't think anybody would want any one of their family members doing heroin. But at the end of the day, I can accept that a person doing heroin on their own is making their own decisions. I think where it becomes dicey as far as morality goes in what's right in society is that how do we protect society while still respecting people's individual rights, but also protecting society? and I think, people, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking about any type of guns, because I think, all that talk is just by tyrants that, it's just a repeat of Germany where they want to take guns away. All that talk of, taking guns away because guns kill people, people kill people, and guns are needed in the country in order to maintain order. If everybody had a gun on their hip, I promise you there'd be less robberies. So
the thing is, man, Long Island it's a fundamental principle, bro. That's what I'm trying to.
It's true. There would be more. It'd be less crime if everyone had a gun. That's true. Everyone should have a gun. But, when people talk about, like Rogue Nation, or, we got to have government, like, got to organize society somehow. And everyone's okay with, government taking money by force from people because, it provides all these good services, right? And it's true. It does provide good services, but I just don't think that the services that it provide outweigh the harm that it causes, right? And like, who is government? Like I said, Long Island was like, alpha, what do you say, alpha? And I was like, we're the alpha of our own lives. I'm the alpha of my own life, and you all should be too. And who is government to protect me, right? I don't need you to protect. Just leave me alone, right? Just let me keep 100% of my income. Then I won't need freaking Medicaid, right? Government gets to take something by force because, hey, we have to have this program for the homeless, right? We got to have food stamps for people. But I couldn't just be like, hey, you know what, dude? I see this poor homeless guy over here and he's disabled, man. And then look, here comes this older lady out of here mopping the Tesla, and she's got a Louis Vuitton purse. I'm just going to go by force, take her purse, and she doesn't need it. I'm going to give the guy $300 that's in her purse because he needs it. No one would be like, yeah, that's cool, man, right? No, because it's a fundamental principle. You can't do that. But government can, I guess. You see what I'm saying, guys, about fundamental principles? That's the paradigm shift, perceived authority that I want people to get to, right? It's simple stuff that we all learned when we're kids, guys. You got to think about it that way. You're indoctrinated. It's just so hard to get it out of your mind, right? Because this is the way it's always been. How could we ever function as society without all this government pointing guns at people? We have to think about it, guys. All the harm that government creates.
Say, man, like, yes, I've said probably 10 times up on here, I don't agree with drunk driving. I don't think people should drink and drive, but it's a fundamental principle. It's one of the first lessons we all learned when we were children was don't hit, right? So it wasn't don't hit unless you're government or unless you're a man with a gun and a badge. It's just don't hit. So whenever you initiate violence on someone else without them initiating violence on you first, then you're the victim. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just like simple like stuff, you know what I mean? And like we've all been propagandized into thinking that, government's good for us and like it's a necessary evil, which is saying that evil is necessary. And I really feel like there's a better way to organize society than through force and coercion, which is just pointing guns at people and just forcing them to your will, whether they hurt someone or not. And trust me, if you are a danger to society and you created victims, then some people that are dangerous to society need to be isolated from society and they need to be locked in a cage. I don't believe in minimum security prisons. Like if you're to the point where you can be in a minimum security prison, you're probably not that dangerous of a society that you need to be locked in a cage.
So I just want to make it clear. So you're saying like a person that goes 100 miles an hour in a school zone back and forth every single day and doesn't hit anybody.
That's not realistic, man.
I'm just using the extreme case that if it was legal, there are going to be people you can't
see. It's not real. Now he's going to the whole driving 100 on a school zone, dude. Like that's just not realistic, man. Like I'm telling you guys, there was actually, what was it, Utah? Or no, it was Nevada. That in 1995, they got rid of the speeding laws. It was like the Autobahn on the freeways, I think, right? And they did a study, and actually the car-related fatalities went down. It didn't go up. It went down, right? It's not, education is where to go, man. Teach people to just use the left lane for passing, man. Stop clogging up the left lane. That's making the road more dangerous, honestly. Is people like getting frustrated and have to pass you on the right lane and then move back over. That's making the road more dangerous than people just speeding in the left lane, honestly. And like when you're speeding, if you're speeding on the freeway, in order for that cop to enforce that speeding law, do you know how much faster he has to speed than you were speeding? Not only that, but he has to speed way fast. Like if you were going 85 and a 75, he's got to go like 105 now for a while to like catch up to you, right? And then he's got to turn his lights on, cause a hazard, force other people off the road, right? Like think about how much more dangerous that was than just letting the guy go 85. Seriously, guys, come on. Just wake up. This is stupid, dude. Speeding laws are so dumb.
Say that there's not.
Yeah. What about street justice?
Right. I mean, I would agree with.
What about when you get pulled over and you get a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt from a motorcycle cop? Has anyone ever had that happen to you? You see how ridiculously asinine that is?
Street justice is fine with me. I have no problem with street justice, you know, whatever. But the point is that DMA, since the history of human beings, since we've came on this planet, there's going to be bad human beings and good human beings, and there has to be some type of check to try to prevent those bad human beings from committing atrocities.
Yeah.
Yes, and like I said, there's lots of different ways localizing government, or there's your fellow man. Like I said, people won't pick up their poop because there's no one there to hold them accountable. But like, people can hold other people accountable, right? People aren't going to just go do all this crazy stuff just because it's legal now. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. If you watch a lot of mainstream media, then you might think that the world is a very scary place and we need a lot of government to protect you, even though the facts of the matter are that we live in the most peaceful time in human history today since we've ever been recording it. You are the least likely to be the victim of a violent attack today than any other time in human history, guys. We are evolving. Believe it or not, it's not as bad as you think. You walk down the street and you're on the sidewalk and someone walks by you. Are you like scared of the other humans? I mean, most people aren't. It depends on what neighborhood you're in. Most people aren't. And even the bad neighborhoods, guess what? Government created those bad neighborhoods, dude. Like, government aren't protecting you from the ghetto, dude. Like, they're creating the ghettos. I hope that people realize this, dude. Like, government is making you even more poor. It all started with the Federal Reserve, man, which is the worst mistake that the United States ever made. You know how much more wealthy every human being would be, every American would be right now if they didn't start the Federal Reserve? The gold standard, dude. Like, minimum wage, we'd be balling on minimum wage, dude. It's just, government is not helping you. It's a facade.
Right.
I agree with that.
There has to be some sort of check to do that, because that's why we've evolved the way we have, and that's why if we didn't evolve with this type of social structure, we wouldn't be in the country we are. Civilization wouldn't have arrived at this type of point, right? So we're going to act on animal instincts, and you know, people. I'm sure when people first arrived, when people were around, they probably didn't care about a woman how she felt, and they probably just it wasn't. You know, it's all society. It's all
Long Island,
right? When cavemen first came up, right? Neanderthals, right? I'm sure that Neanderthals been on a daily basis. They didn't give a shit about that woman, and they probably.
Come on, Long Island. How many Neanderthals have you met?
How would it be offensive if it's true? Okay, first of all.
So I don't like the way F in Reality he did that edit, because he kind of took the power away of that point that I was making. But you remember when Long Island was like, hey, you know, like, how many people have you met, DMA? It's very disingenuous for you to say this, blah, 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 and you haven't met, you know, that's a very small percentage. Rogue Nation said the same thing, and then he just said, you know, I'm sure that Neanderthals and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, what are you talking about? Man, you're saying the same thing, dude. What are you talking about? How many Neanderthals have you known?
I'm not 100% in love with your tone right now.
Remember you said, how many cops have you met? How many people have you met?
I'm going based off of, you know, we can determine we can guess what that is, because we are humans, we're animals, and animals have certain instincts and certain things that they want to do. And, you know, our what's our job at the end of the day? To procreate, right? Our job is to procreate. It's not to procreate in the most nice way. Who knows? But I'm all for, I expose bad cops on a daily basis. I expose bad mayors, you know, senators. I've done it all.
We're DMA. You drive drunk. You run over my kid. I take my AK-47. I go over and smoke your mom.
Perceived authority about Hurricane Katrina when the National Guard went over there and started disarming everyone. Right? Talk about honoring your oath, like, right? Like, it's not just cops, it's human beings, dude. Human beings are order followers, dude. They are. It's no excuse, man. How can you swear an oath to the Constitution and then go disarm citizens during Hurricane Katrina? We don't need to bear arms during peaceful times. The whole point of the right to bear arms is for times like Hurricane Katrina, when you need to protect yourself and your family. And the National Guard's disarming everyone, dude. But, you know, going against their oath of office. That's crazy, man. And here we go with Rogue Nation. You're gonna smoke my mom. You're talking about anarchy, guys.
Right? That's anarchy. Right?
No, that's not my definition of anarchy. Like, when I say anarchy, what I want to do is localize government.
But that's what it is, though. But
when you run over my kid, I'm going to take my gun and smoke your family. That's what anarchy is, right? It's an eye for an eye, right? It's natural law, right? Because that's what natural law is, right? An eye for an eye.
No, there's still going to be rule
One
of law.
person dead for one person dead. Right. It's got to be the same guy. But do you understand the point? Because once I smoke DMA for running over my niece, DMA's brother is going to come and try to smoke me.
Yeah, but no, but
right? It's an eye for an eye.
But that's just saying like we're all just
At
out
Field
for themselves. There's no government at all. I'm not saying no government at all. I'm saying localized.
Literally what.
That's what I'm saying.
And hold on, I understand the local government aspect, right? Let's say every town in America is a little government now, right? What happens when Russia comes over to try to conquer the United States?
Wolverines! I can answer that. In World War II, when Hirohito was asked why they didn't invade the mainland, he said because there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. That's what the Second Amendment is for. And so it's nobody's going to come over here when they know that every single American is armed. And when I say like the Second Amendment, I don't mean that we should keep our AKs and we should keep our AR-15s. We should go on the offensive. We should have well-organized, regulated militias, which is what the founders envisioned. The founders were actually against the idea of standing armies because the founders knew that countries don't attack countries. Governments attack governments, right? It's not like people associate themselves as a collective, like, oh, we bombed Syria and we bombed Iraq. Like, no, we didn't do that. The government did it, right? Because war is the health of the state, right? And Eisenhower warned us that your government will get addicted to going to war. So if you have a population, right, like why would anyone want to invade us in the first place, right?
The world is created on people invading other people. That is before guns, before that is just what's happened since the beginning of time. What do you mean? Why would they ever invade? Of course they're going to invade.
I didn't get to finish. Like I was actually got cut off, but the reason they would want to invade you is because they say, hey, look at those Americans over there. They like paying taxes. Let's go take over there and let's take over that tax base. But if you're essentially a society that refuses to be governed and you're well armed, like Hirohito said, he wouldn't invade because we still have machine guns, we still have grenades, tanks, we have well-regulated, organized militias.
When we came over here and started taking over all the
now, in order for that to work, guys, I think that all governments have to go away. And I think eventually we'll get to that point. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime, but we will eventually. Like, dude, I don't know how many people believe in aliens, but I think most people do. Even scientists believe in aliens, right? Like the universe is so big. There's no way that we're the only planet, right, that has a star that's close enough to them to create life. But do you think the aliens they're looking at us? Look at these poor primitive humans, dude, that have governments and they think they're free. If you have a government, then by definition, you're not free. You have the illusion of freedom, like James Freeman says, right? He's a free range slaveman, right? Like a free range chicken. That's what you are. You're just given this illusion of freedom. Like when you're a slave, you worked hard labor and, they were abused, but essentially you worked and then you were given food and shelter, right? And then they abolished slavery, but we just figured out a different way to make you a slave, just not a slave in chains. It's debt slavery now. So now what do you do? Most Americans, they just work for food and shelter, right? With the illusion that they're free because they're not in chains and they can, they can go out to the bar on Friday, right? But you're still a slave.
Americans, we didn't just say, oh, let's go get their tax money. That's not what happened.
Okay, right now, most Americans pay at least 50% of their income to the government. Okay, and a lot of people don't agree with that, but it's not just income tax, it's sales tax, property tax, registration of your vehicles, that speeding ticket. You want to pay for permission to upgrade your home. If you add all that up, that's like 50%. What if you got to keep 100% of your income?
Yeah, we can afford that.
There'd be no need for like Medicaid, like all these things that government provide, like build the roads and like social nets and food stamps and all that. Military, like, okay, yeah, if you want to spend trillions and trillions of dollars going to war, well, then yeah, you have to have a federal income tax. But if we weren't trying to police the world and we focused on ourselves, yeah, there would be money for those types of things. There would be money for militias. Yes, it would be voluntary.
Do you think that if we eliminated all taxes, sales tax, I agree with you on paying 50% or more, but if we eliminated all taxes, you're saying that individuals, as selfish as I've seen people be in this world, you're saying individuals would just automatically pony up the amount of money it takes in order to defend ourselves from Russia or from another country that taxes and has a military and has all these. So we're just going to all agree and say, you know what? Russia has nukes. Let's develop a nuclear program and let's all pitch in.
So what I was saying was that I think all countries will have to get on board with it, right? For it to really work, because the only borders that I believe should exist are those of private property. So like all the other lines they're just arbitrary lines written on a map, right? Now, given the current state of government that we do have, I do think it's important to protect the border because we do have a government, unfortunately. So I don't think that just opening the border up, you guys might have your opinion, this is just mine, is a good idea. But in the grand scheme of things, my ultimate end goal is that, yeah, if I want my friend from Mexico to come visit me on my own land that I owned, but he can't because now he has to get through this other border, the United States border, that says you can't come over here, right? Like we should just be members of Earth, right? Not member of a collective, the United States of America. Like the United States is like the most patriotic country, dude, that there is. Them in Russia. It's like, oh gosh, dude, the United States, I pledge allegiance to the flag, right? As they're like stripping your rights away left and right. Thank you, troops, for protecting our rights, right? Like, how many rights do we have to lose before we stop thanking the troops for protecting our rights, man? It's not brown people in third world countries that are taking your rights away, guys. It's your own government, man. Wake up. So anyways, for it to work, in my opinion, I think we'd all have to get rid of government, but it's got to start somewhere, right? Someone's got to do it first. But until we kind of change the power structure of the New World Order and all the, people that are really in charge, the fourth branch of government, it's never going to change. You have to get collectively everyone on board. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but I do think that good will triumph over evil eventually.
40% of our salary in order to make that happen. You think that the amount of people that it would take to fund something like that, people would voluntarily just give their money?
I don't think that it would take 40%. First of all, I think it would take a way smaller percentage of that. And yes, I do think that people would voluntarily give up some money to help protect the country. Yes. Again, if you want to police the world, like, it's not going to take the United States spend what? It's like, I don't know how many times more than the next 50 countries combined on our military. Want is like literally go to perpetuate endless war and be constantly at conflict with everyone, well then, yeah, everyone would have to give up a bunch of money voluntarily. But if you just want to like actually have, real freedom and like
Lackluster is, I don't know if he's an anarchist, but he is definitely a libertarian, guys. Same with James Freeman. I don't know if you guys know that about them, but they absolutely believe in the non-aggression principle, just like me. So that's why one of the reasons why I like them both so much.
Protect your own homeland, like when the United States goes to Iraq and Afghanistan and they say they're protecting freedom, when really the people they're fighting against are just, a lot of them are just farmers who are protecting their own homeland. Like, yeah, if you want to do that, then yeah, you wouldn't have enough money. No one's going to be able to volunteer that much money. If you want to just have enough, just protect your homeland, then yeah, people.
I think the argument that you made about, people would only want to, because they want to take our tax money and things. It's important. I believe in protecting the homeland first before, I'm totally against all these foreign wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I get it. But, I loved history growing up.
Okay, guys. So I pretty much got everything that I needed to get done. The stream's getting a little bit too long, so I'm going to go ahead and just end it there. But if you want to keep watching the rest of the video, if you're interested in it, the link to that video is in the description of this video. Also, the full live stream is linked in there too. You guys should subscribe to everyone that was on panel up there. I don't have everyone that was on panels link, but I have most of them. The people that were talking, at least, I have them in there. So that's it, guys. Thanks for coming in. Let's give a quick shout out to the members, if I have any in here still. Not sure if I did. We got Wicked Wembley in here. What's up, bro? We got Crofty in here. What's up, Crofty? Let's see who else we got. I think that might be it. That's all I got in here for now. So thanks for coming in. I hope that clarifies the things that I wanted to clarify, with the whole good cop, bad cop thing, and also with the auditor thing, guys. That was the main thing that I wanted to get out the way so that people don't think that I'm a hypocrite in my next video, because I don't really think that people should just go in right away being rude to cops. It's just, I don't know, I just don't feel like it's necessary, man. Right? So, but I do think that just because someone wants to say F you or suck my D, I think that's free speech, right? And it's funny. So one more thing, go check out my attorney's new video, the DMCA lawyer. This guy, Darcy, who's another lawyer who loves the trolls. All the trolls are saying that, oh, DMA just can't handle criticism. He wants to silence free speech and stuff, right? That's what they say. I never knew that my channel will be under attack by someone who advocates for free speech, right? It's not free speech. You don't have the First Amendment right to steal other people's content and post it up with uninterrupted blocks as a market substitute. It's not a right protected under the First Amendment. But it's funny because this guy that can't stand, he supports the trolls, literally filed a motion in my case against Auditor Troll to try to silence me, to try to tell me to stop making videos about him. Doesn't really put him in a very good light, you know, when the trolls are saying that's what I'm doing, and then that's literally what he goes and does. So it's pretty funny. But anyways, got a video dropping Saturday, guys. Appreciate you. Everyone have a great night. Peace.
Up on Mount Loser, where the echoes howl, we're carving faces in the stone so foul. DMA's the hammer, Georgia swings the axe. Auditing's got receipts, no one's got their backs. Liberty Trolls got the spotlight tight. The MCA lawyers set to ignite, smashing the trolls like Mount Rushmore. Their lies crumble, can't stand no more. Dr. Douche is on the ropes, out of hope. Now loser rises, nope, nope, nope. Tweet in shadows, hide behind their screens, spinning fake tales, broken plastic dreams. We see through their cracks, every little scheme. Liberty stands tall, this ain't no meme. Smashing the trolls like Mount Rushmore. Their lies crumble, can't stand no more. Dr. Douche is on the ropes, out of hope. Mount Loser rises, nope, nope, nope. They tweet in shadows, hide behind their screens, spinning fake tales, broken plastic dreams. We see through their cracks at the ropes, out of hope. Mount Loser rises, nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope, nope. Stone by stone, we're taking the climb. Trolls go silent, running out of time. Their house of cards, we blow it down. Mount Loser's anthem loud in the town. Smashing the trolls like Mount Rushmore. Their fake crowns fall, hit the floor. Dr. Douche is on the ropes, no more scope. Mount Loser rises, nope, nope, nope.